Hello, students. Welcome to today's lecture. Now, it will be a continuation of the topic syllables and stress. However, I will dive in deeper to the aspect of the rules that govern the usage of stress placement. And I remember that we're only able to touch the aspect of syllable, but we weren't able to touch the aspect of stress. Now, in today's lecture, we will look at the emphasis of stress placement and as well the rules that govern stress placements in English language. Now, let's begin. So, what exactly is stress? Okay, that's the major concentration. Remember, now, if you would like me to take a review on the syllable aspect that was taught, do you understand, in the last class, I'll be looking at the aspect of definition of syllable, all right, the different types of syllable, and after which I considered the rules that govern the usage of bisyllabic words. Do you understand? And today we'll be diving to polysyllabic words and the rest. So here, stress is the specific syllable which gives forcefulness, okay, which gives forcefulness in pronunciation. All right. So stress is the specific syllable. Okay. Be mindful of the word specific syllable, which gives forcefulness in pronunciation. All right. Now, when you have a word and such word is divided into different syllables, all you have to do is to identify the specific syllable that gives you difficulty in pronouncing or difficulty in pronunciation. All right. Now, that specific syllable that gives you difficulty in pronunciation is called the stressed syllable. Do you understand? Now, here, the syllable that gives difficulty, all right? So the syllable that gives difficulty in pronunciation is known as the stressed syllable. Is known as the stressed syllable. Do you understand? Now, notes NB, all syllables, all syllables are not pronounced, or articulated the same way. However, some 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 require some requires exertion of energy, while others does not. Now, some require exertion, okay, of energy, while others do not require. So in this case, let's see, for every specific word, try to identify the syllabic division, after which you can now check the particular syllable that gives you forcefulness in pronunciation. All right. So A letter can signify a syllable. A letter can signify a syllable. Do you understand? That is, it means that in some words, you can have just a letter being a syllable. It is possible. A letter can be a syllable. Do you understand? And more than one letter can actually be a syllable too. Okay? Types of stress. Types of stress in English. Types of stress in English. Now, class, we have different types of stress in English. Now, we'll be considering that. The first aspect is the primary stress, okay, or main stress. You can as well call that main stress, okay. Now, for those that are just joining, remember, we're trying to look at the aspect of syllables and stress. And then in the last class, we were able to emphasize more on the aspect of syllables. Now, today, we'll be looking at stress. And remember that from our definition, we have it that stress is the specific syllable which gives forcefulness in pronunciation, all right? And then here we have that the syllable that gives difficulty in pronunciation is known as the stress syllable, all right? Is known as the stress syllable. Take note of that. And remember, we also said that all syllables are not produced or pronounced or articulated the same way, all right? So that simply means that some syllables require exertion of energy, while others do not, okay? While others do not, all right? Now remember that a letter, that is a single letter, can signify a syllable. So there could be a case where you have just a letter representing a syllable. It is very possible, very, very possible. Now, on the other part, we're trying to look at the types of stress in English, all right? So what are those different types of stress that we have in English, okay? The first aspect is known as the primary or main stress. That is, you can either call it a primary stress or you call it the main stress, okay? Now, number two, we have the secondary stress, okay? The secondary stress. That is immediately after the primary or main stress, we have the secondary stress. Do you understand? Now, three, we have the zero stress, okay? The zero stress. This represents an unstressed syllable. That is a particular syllable that do not bear stress, a particular syllable that do not attract stress. It is called the zero stress, all right? So these are basically the three different types of stress that we have in English language, all right? Now, we're going to take a look at them one after another. The first aspect is the primary stress, okay? The primary stress. So here we have the primary stress, okay? This is a specific syllable. This is a specific syllable which attracts difficulty, which attracts difficulty in pronunciation. Difficulty in pronunciation. Now, if you have a specific word, like I explained earlier, the first thing to do is to place it in a syllabic division, all right? Having done that, the next thing to do is try as much as possible to examine each syllable, all right? Try to identify among these syllables which specific syllable would give me difficulty in pronunciation, all right? Now, that specific syllable that gives you difficulty in pronunciation, that is known as the stress syllable or the primary stress. Do you understand? That's known as the primary stress. Now, in YX standard, comma, in YX standard, comma, the primary stress, the primary stress, the primary stress is denoted, is denoted, is denoted with capital letters. I'm going to explain this to you. Now, if you remember, in WAEC exams, do you understand? That's usually paper 3, all right? You realize that the primary stress is usually noted with what? With capital letters. That is, the stress syllable will be identified with capital letter, whereas the unstressed syllables will be denoted with small letters. Now, this is to tell you that the stress syllable that is in capital letter is actually the primary stress. That's what it simply means. Now, beyond WAEC level, there's dictionary, okay, and every form of functional English. The stress syllable is usually denoted by a superscript vertical mark, all right, aside from the capitalization. So here, in the university, the primary stress, the primary stress is denoted with the use of the superscripts, or you can as well call it upper scripts vertical mark. Okay. Yes. So beyond WAEC level, beyond senior secondary school, the primary stress is denoted by a superscript vertical mark. Let me show you that. This is exactly how it is. So this is exactly how it is. You will see an upper stroke on top of the stress syllable. Yes. Usually, in front of that or before that stress syllable, it's placed before the stress syllable. That's usually how it is indicated. I hope this is clear to you now. Okay, so now, while I'm able to give definition for the secondary stress, then I'll project the examples for you. So the next one is the secondary stress. Okay. This is a specific syllable. This is a specific syllable which has lower level of emphasis, lower level of emphasis in pronunciation, lower level of emphasis in pronunciation. That is, it is not soundly pronounced or produced just like the primary stress. For example, if the primary stress has about 10% volume of pronunciation, the secondary stress will have about 7 or 6. Do you understand? That's to tell you that it has a lower degree of pronunciation compared to the primary stress. Do you understand? Now, let's have this. It is mostly denoted by the lower script. Remember, the lower script vertical mark. The lower script vertical mark. Do you understand? It's mostly denoted by the lower script vertical mark. is mostly denoted by the lower script vertical mark. Now, let me illustrate that. This is it here. It's just directly opposite of the primary stress. It's denoted this way. Do you understand? So this is how it is denoted. The lower script vertical mark. So please take notes. These are basically the two. Now let's consider the zero stress. The zero stress. The zero stress. All right, so this is a syllable which do not attract, which do not. This is a syllable which do not attract a stress placement. Do you understand? So it doesn't attract a stress placement at all. That is why it is regarded as a zero stress, or a what you call zero syllable. So in this case, there is no emphasis at all. All right. There is no emphasis on the syllable. So here, there is no emphasis. There is no emphasis on the syllable. What I mean by there is no emphasis on the syllable is the syllable is not highly produced or pronounced. There is no form of forcefulness in that specific syllable. There is no element of forcefulness at all. Do you understand? That's what I mean by zero stress. And it is usually not denoted with any particular sign. It's just natural. Do you understand? It is very natural. So the zero stress, is not, the zero stress is usually not denoted with a particular symbol, all right? It is not denoted with a particular symbol. Hence, it is natural. Hence, it is natural. Full stop. So it is simply natural. So examples could be, examples could be the schwa sound, all right? The tion, the sion, okay? They can never attract any stress. Example for this, fy, even some prefix, like discomfort, uncomfortable. Do you understand? They can't attract any particular stress. Do you understand? None, and so on, like that. So these are examples of zero stress. They can't attract any form of stress. They can't. So in a case where you have a word which consists of a prefix and the root word, the prefix will never take a stress. It is the root word that would attract stress. And that prefix falls under zero stress because it can never take a stress. So if you have a syllabic division, all right, containing the schwa sound, the schwa sound will never take any particular stress, all right? It won't take any particular stress at all. And also bear in mind that content words are usually stressed, content or lexical words. So grammatical or function words are not usually stressed. Do you understand? Yes, they are usually not stressed. Take note of this for the UTME candidates and those that are also learning too. Take note of this. Take note of this. So these are the three basic types of stress, okay? So like I said, note, content words content or lexical words are usually stressed. Do you understand? They are usually stressed. All right. Examples are what? Nouns are content words. Verbs are content words. Adjectives are content words. And then adverbs, they are content words. They are usually stressed. They are usually stressed. Are we good? They are usually stressed. And then another example, note. So you have grammatical or function words. Grammatical or function words. Grammatical or function words are usually not stressed. All right, so grammatical or function words are usually not stressed. They are not strict. Examples of grammatical or function words are, so here we have e.g., you have pronouns. All right, you have preposition, prep, conjunction. You have interjection, or what you can possibly call exclamation, and so on like that. So these are basically grammatical or function words. They can never be stressed. Do you understand? They're usually not stressed. But content or lexical words are stressed because they constitute meaning. Do you understand? The content words constitute meaning. That's why they're usually stressed. But function words like pronoun, preposition, conjunction, interjection, articles, they are usually not stressed. They do not constitute meaning. All right. What I mean by they do not constitute meaning is that they don't have as much lexical entry or weight as the content words. So the content words explicate meaning. Do you understand? They project meaning than the grammatical or function words. Do you understand? So here, we're going to be looking at the rules that govern stress placement in polysyllabic words. Okay? Those are what we'll look at. Okay, so now let's see stress placement. Stress placement in polysyllabic words. In polysyllabic words. Stress placement in polysyllabic words. All right, so please take note. Now, polysyllabic words are words that constitute more than 2 syllables. Do you understand? Yes, and then we're going to be looking at how stress can be easily placed in these words. Okay, now the best way to do that is to memorize the suffixes. Okay, yes, that's the easiest way to do that, to memorize the suffixes. How do you identify the suffixes for each of these words? The suffixes, the suffixes determine the suffixes determine the placement of the stress. The placement of the stress. The suffixes determine the placement of the stress. So here, the first one does, I'm going to give as many rules as possible. So please take notes. Rule 1. So I'm going to give just one as a sample, and then others I'll repeat them in the same manner. So if a word ends with the suffix, okay? So take notes. If a word ends with the suffix, and what's the suffix here? The suffix is tion, okay, or sion. Therefore, the stress will be placed. The stress will be placed at the penultimate syllable. Okay. So if a word ends with the suffix, and what's the suffix there? tion or sion. Therefore, the stress will be placed at the penultimate syllable. That is second to the last syllable. That's what it means. Remember, that's second to the last syllable. Penultimate syllable means second to the last. And when you hear the word penultimate, it means, all right, second but the last, or second to the last, or before the last. Okay? Yeah. Second but the last. That's the meaning. Remember, I was able to explain to you that we have 4 different structures of stress identification. 4 different structures. So what are those 4 different structures? What are those 4 different structures? The first one is ultimate, remember? The second one is penultimate, which was what I mentioned earlier. Penultimate. The third one is antepenultimate. Okay. And then the fourth one is the first syllable. The first syllable. I hope this is clear to you. So here we have ultimate, penultimate, antepenultimate, and first syllable. I hope this is clear to you. So here, ultimate means the last syllable. Penultimate means second, but the last. Now, antepenultimate simply means third, but the last. Okay? While the first syllable, obviously, just as you know, first syllable exactly from the very beginning. That's first syllable. So here are the 4 different structures, okay, for you to take notes when referring to stress. Now, look at the first rule. So rule 1. If a word means any word at all. If any word ends with the suffix, what suffix is that? That's tion or sion. What happens? Now, it means that the primary stress, or the stress, as you may call it, will be placed at the penultimate syllable, which simply means the second to the last syllable. I hope this is clear to you. So here, I can generate numerous number of words, a whole word. So here I can have, for example, information, okay? I can have education, I can have communication, as many words as possible, commission. Just ensure to spell the words correctly. That's the most important thing. Ensure to spell the words correctly. I mean, ensure that the spelling of the words are correct. Once you're able to get that, every other thing is fine. So in this case, let's provide a syllabic division for the word information, okay? So here you have IN hyphen FOR hyphen MA hyphen TION, all right? I hope you're able to see this. So this is a syllabic division of the word information. The word information, here is the syllabic division. Can you make a trial for me, all right? Make a syllabic division for the word education, communication, commission. I'm going to give you just 2 minutes, if that's not too much. Make a trial. Let's see. Provide a syllabic division for the word information, education, communication, commission. Make a trial. Have you been able to get that? So now, let's see. Let's compare education. You have letter E hyphen DU hyphen CA hyphen then TION. Communication CO hyphen MMU hyphen NI hyphen CA hyphen then TION. Commission CO hyphen MMI hyphen SSION. Okay, so here are the syllabic division for these words. Now, since we've been able to provide syllabic division, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 syllables. We can have 4 seals. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 seals, 2. That's 4 syllables, I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seals. 5 syllables. 1, 2, 3. 3 seals. 3 syllables. Are we good? Now, the next thing is, remember the rule. If you want to start counting, all right, the number of syllables that you have in a word, you don't start from the very beginning. Rather, you will start from the end. And remember that the end is called ultimate, all right, which is the last. After the ultimate, you have what? Penultimate. After the penultimate, what do you have? Antepenultimate, and then to the first syllable. Look at the arrangement, basically, okay? So here, if I'm to start counting, I'll start with TION, which is, this is the ultimate, as you can see. MA, this is the penultimate, as you can see here too. Then FOR, antepenultimate, and then IN, the first syllable. I hope this is clear to you. So now, what are you supposed to do? Apply the rule. What is the rule stating? Now here, the rule indicates that if a word ends with the suffix, either TION or SION, what are you supposed to do? Now, just place the stress at the penultimate syllable, okay? So that simply means that the stress will be placed on MA. So in my own case, I decide to what? Circle it, but you can place a superscript vertical mark on it like this. And place a superscript vertical mark on it, just the same way like this. Okay? Place a superscript vertical mark. The same way too, education. What do you have? Now, this is the last syllable, and here is the second to the last syllable. That's CA. So you can place a superscript vertical mark on it. Next one, communication. Last syllable, second to the last. You place a superscript vertical mark on it. Commission. What do you have? Last syllable, and then second to the last. Place a superscript vertical mark on it. So once you're able to get this correctly, it means you've passed the first stage. That's the first rule of that. So we're going to look at subsequent rules like that. Rule 2, rule 3, and rule 4. So let's go. Here, this is rule 2. I'm going to be using the direct form, okay? And what's the direct form? So if a word ends with the suffix IUM, okay? You know, this is a suffix basically. So if a word ends with this particular suffix IUM, so the stress will be placed on penultimate, okay? So placed on penultimate syllable. Don't forget. So what I mean by the short form is, instead of writing it very long as this, do you understand? I just prefer to use the short form, telling you that if a word ends with the suffix IUM, all right, it means you're to place the stress on the penultimate syllable. Place the stress on the penultimate syllable. That is second to the last syllable. So you could have as many words as possible, okay? So here you could have pandemonium, pandemonium. You could suggest other words for me. So you could have pandemonium. Let's see. Delirium. Delirium. And some other words that you could possibly suggest, okay? So here, what are we supposed to do? Make a syllabic division. Okay, this is a very long word, so we could try from here. So we have PANDEMO and IUM as pandemonium. Now for delirium, we have DELIRIUM. Delirium. I hope these are very, very clear to you. Now, what are you supposed to do next? For pandemonium, now, this is the last syllable. That's INIUM. That's the last syllable. And this is second to the last syllable. You place the superscript vertical mark before the MO. That's to show that this is the syllable that attracts the stress, or the syllable that bears the stress. Is that okay? And now, delirium, basically, last syllable, remember, that's what is called ultimate. And this is second to the last. You place the superscript vertical mark before that specific syllable. Before the specific syllable. I hope rule 2 is clear to you. Now, let's look at rule 3. Let's consider rule 3. Now, if you have any particular English word, all right, which ends with the suffix IAN, all right, please take note that the stress obviously will be placed on the penultimate syllable, okay? So here you have penultimate syllable, penultimate syllable. Now, what's the essence of this? It helps you to pronounce words very well. It helps in word pronunciation, all right? That's why you're learning this. It helps so much with word pronunciation. Now, let's go. So here I can have authoritarian, okay? Authoritarian, disciplinarian, all right? So I have two words. You can possibly give as many words as possible. You could give as many words as possible. It's allowed. So let's make a syllabic division. So here we have AU hyphen THO hyphen TA hyphen RIAN. Author, oh, sorry. We have authoritarian. Yes, so here is the appropriate syllabic division. So you have AU hyphen THO hyphen RI hyphen TA hyphen RIAN. That's the syllabic division. So here, what do you have? You have the ultimate, and this is the penultimate syllable. So you place a superscript vertical mark on it. Is that okay? So this is the syllable that bears the stress. Now, the next one, disciplinarian. Disciplinarian. So you have DIS, CI, PLI, NA, then RIAN. Disciplinarian. So here you have the final or last syllable. Do you understand? And then you have second to the last syllable. Second to the last syllable. Disciplinarian. So let's take rule 4. Rule 4. Rule 4. So if you have a word ending with the suffix IC, okay? IC. If a word ends with the suffix IC, what happens? You should have the stress on the penultimate syllable. So I'm intentionally giving you words that should attract penultimate syllable. Do you understand? So that it will be straightforward for you. I mean, you'll be able to understand it. Because when I begin to mix penultimate, anti-penultimate, penultimate, anti-penultimate, you may likely get confused. So if you have all those penultimate outlined, do you understand, on one particular section, and then you have the anti-penultimate also outlined on a different section, that will be very clear and straightforward. Now, rule 4, if you have any word that ends with the suffix IC, okay, IC, ick, remember that the stress will be placed on the penultimate syllable, okay? Now, you could have as many words as possible. For instance, you could have a word like democratic. It's possible, okay? So you could also have photographic. In as much as it ends with IC. Demographic. And it has to be more than 2 syllables. It has to be 3 syllables or more. So next one is, let me give another word. You will even have catastrophic. It's possible. So you could have as many words as possible. Okay. So the next thing to do is to conduct a syllabic division. So democratic, you would have DEMOCRA, then TIC. All right. The next one, photographic. Okay. So for photographic, you should have PHOTOGRAPHIC. For demographic, you have DEMOGRAPHIC. Catastrophic, all right? So you have CATASTROPHIC, catastrophic. Then catastrophic. Now, other possible syllabic division could be you having TA and S. Catastrophic with the pronunciation. Now, the next thing to do is to look at the syllable that will bear the stress. Okay, so here we have ultimate, then TIC, penultimate syllable CRA, correct? Now, ultimate PHIC, penultimate GRA, correct? Ultimate PHIC, penultimate GRA, correct? Ultimate PHIC, penultimate STRO. All right, so in pronunciation, what you have is democratic. All right, you realize that this particular syllable will give you forcefulness in pronunciation. Even in photographic, you realize that this would give you demographic. This will give you forcefulness, and catastrophic. This will equally give you forcefulness. All right. So we're going to be taking 4 rules today. Okay. In our next class in English language, we will be having other subsequent rules. Okay. The next class that would take place will be literature in English. All right. Literature in English. Now, what I need you to do is try as much as possible to remain online so that you could participate in the aspect of the literature in English. All right. Thank you.